Mexico City takes place this weekend, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight on the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. As always, I like to look at my past week's performance to see what we can improve upon, and honestly, you guys, I did go 7-6 on picks, but low-key, I kind of slapped. Let's go over the wrong ones. Andre Puliev, plus 450. Bad dog shot. I kind of just was banking on Christian Leroy Duncan being mid and trash, and he kind of is mid and trash, but not enough to not defeat Andre Puliev. So bad take. Mick Parkin, round 2 KO, low-key almost happened. He was ground and pounding Tybura in round 2. I think Parkin should have won the decision. We would have been 8 of 13 if he won, but the robbery goes to Tybura there. Jai Herbert, I think he also won that decision. That would have been 9 of 13 correct. We did take his spread plus 3.5, so that was free. But I'm not going to say bad pick for that one. Morgan Charrier, I will say bad pick. I mean, pre-flop, Nathaniel Wood, decision merchant, and Charrier is notorious at losing decisions. That should have been the breakdown. But, you know, I dove too deep and picked Charrier because he had the finishing upside, but no. Jordan Vucenic, last week, if you watched the video, I really was trying to make a case for Chris Duncan, but I just felt I was taking too many underdogs. You know, Cowie Fernandez was plus 350. Puliev was plus 450. I kind of felt like taking Chris Duncan was a lot. Kevin Holland, great pick. Jan Blachowicz, another one. We would have won 10 of 13, correct, if Blachowicz wins as well, on top of Parkin and on top of Herbert. But, you know, the judges just saw it going in Olberg's direction. Plus 3.5 on Blachowicz would have been free as well. I don't hate that pick. He put up an excellent fight against Carlos Olberg. So, overall, 7 of 6, you know, not the best predictions, but ultimately we made piles on the picks that we got correct because the lines were so close. So, let's bring the same energy into UFC Mexico City. We got a lot of underdogs to talk about, so let's dive in. First fight of the card, we have Austin Hubbard taking on Marquel Mederos, and honestly, in this one, I was very tempted to take Austin Hubbard, but the problem, it really comes down to finishing ability. You know, Austin Hubbard, he's really as mid as it gets. He doesn't really have any punching power, and his grappling is not really submission finishing ability like. So if you were to take Austin Hubbard in this matchup, I don't blame you because Marquel Mederos, there's nothing that jumps off the page about him. He is a prospect, but he's coming off a win against Landon Quinones. And in that one, number one, he looked very hittable, very low volume, not really a lot of takedown success, very mid overall as a prospect. But they're giving him someone that potentially he will outpower. You know, that's the only thing I really see in Mederos' favor. I think this fight is going to be razor close, decided on slim margins. I wanted to take Austin Hubbard because he's usually good at these type of wishy-washy, on-the-edge fights. But ultimately, I'm just going to take the younger guy who also trains in elevation, so cardio is not going to be a problem. And I think Mederos will just do just a little bit enough to look better on the scorecards so that he wins a slight decision. I don't advise betting this either way. I would have advised betting Austin Hubbard, but, you know, I had an epiphany before making this video, and we're not doing that. So, Marquel Mederos by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Jamall Emmers taking on Gabriel Miranda, and I think in this matchup, it's going to come down to fight IQ. Obviously, picking Gabriel Miranda is not the best look. You know, Gabriel Miranda has one path to victory, and it's most likely to get a submission. The thing is, though, Jamall Emmers, I think, is the type of fighter to get submitted by a guy like Gabriel Miranda. Like Jamall Emmers, he's pretty heavy-handed, but he only has 1 KO in the UFC, and that was recently, and I think that was against Denis Buzukja. So, other than that, there's not a lot that jumps off the page about Jamall Emmers. Like, he KO'd Denis Buzukja, right? Then his next fight, he has that same energy, like, oh, I have KO power, I'm going to go full force, and then Nate Landwehr sleeps him. So I think in this fight, after getting slept by Nate Landwehr, I think Emmers is going to be more hesitant to throw with heat, and that's what Miranda does bad against. And I think Emmers will actually initiate takedowns and grappling because of how hesitant he is to throw on the feet. And I think once that happens, Miranda wins by sub. It's just that simple. I think Emmers is very low IQ. That's what this pick is about. It's just, you cannot take Emmers at minus 250, and I think there's a lot to like about Gabriel Miranda at plus 270. I'm going to throw some money on his sub prop as well once that drops. Gabriel Miranda by round 1 sub, I think he will find some type of heel hook or even potentially just jump on Emmers' back just like a psycho. So, yeah. Next fight on the card, we have Rafa Garcia taking on Vinc Pichel, and in this one, Vinc Pichel's 42 years old. There's not really a lot to like about him. Back in the day, there was more to like because he threw with more power. He threw with a little more volume. But nowadays, he slows down, doesn't throw a lot of volume. His punches are very predictable. Like, you can see them coming from a mile away because he's not the quickest striker. He did give Ismael Bonfim a run for his money. But he just lost all 3 rounds very clearly in that one. He didn't get finished, but he lost all 3 rounds clearly. I think something similar happens here. Rafa Garcia is mainly a grappler. So that can go in Vinc Pichel's favor. Maybe he can win the striking exchanges on the feet. And since Rafa is mainly a grappler, maybe Rafa gasses out since it's in UFC Mexico City. However, Rafa is Mexican himself, so I doubt that he's going to, actually, his gas tank will go out the window. Rafa is 30 years old, so he's still evolving in his game. He is coming off a loss to Grant Dawson, but that's Grant Dawson. He's very good. Overall, I think Rafa will just get takedowns and not be able to finish Pichel. And I think it's a clear decision in Rafa's favor. So Rafa Garcia by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Julia Polastri taking on Loopy Godinez. And in this one, I'm taking Julia Polastri because of a lot of reasons. Number one, Loopy Godinez. If you were to back her, you are putting your faith in her ability to get takedowns in this fight. You are putting your faith in Loopy's ability to shoot for takedowns, for her to even want to shoot for takedowns. We've seen multiple fights now where Loopy's path to victory is to shoot takedowns, and guess what? Loopy does not shoot takedowns. Loopy keeps it standing. Loopy makes it a super close fight, and Loopy sometimes loses those close fights. And I think in this one, we have the recipe for the exact same thing. Polastri is very good at anti-grappling and anti-wrestling. She has good BJJ of her own, so if this were to hit the mat, I could potentially see her reversing positions on Loopy. I could even maybe see her getting a guillotine on Loopy if Loopy is going full send into takedowns. I don't see Loopy finishing Julia. Julia has some decent, has fought some decent opponents. Josephine Knudsen, I know she's not in the UFC, but she was very solid at the time. Let's see who else. Where's that girl? Jasmine Jazadovicius up a weight class. She went to a decision with her and looked not that bad in that fight either. And her most recent performance was against Corey McKenna in a fight where Corey McKenna's main path was to find a sub. And Julia Polastri kept it standing, kept it striking. I really like what I see out of Polastri. She's a dog that will move forward. She's a dog that will fight for your money. There's too many question marks behind Loopy Godinez, including her fight IQ. And I think in front of the Mexican crowd, that might be exposed tenfold. So for all those reasons, there's enough meat here to take Julia Polastri by decision. Next fight on the card is Costa taking on Christian Rodríguez. And this is a tough one. Both guys fought less than 2 months ago. Costa fighting less than a month ago itself. And now they're expecting both guys to go out there and give good performances at elevation. It's a bit questionable. Also consider C-Rod has been training in Mexico City, I believe, for the last month. So he's been prepping for the elevation. Meanwhile, Costa fought 3 weeks ago. There's no way he's been prepping for the elevation. So that could be an argument in C-Rod's favor. Melky might gas himself out. I can see that. However, if you look over C-Rod's record, it's only against prospects that are mainly undefeated. And C-Rod is mainly winning by anti-wrestling and throwing with volume. He doesn't really have a lot of power, and his submission skill set hasn't really showed up in the UFC thus far. The only thing that has showed up is his lack of fight IQ when he has a jump in competition because he fought Julian Erosa. He was kind of getting outworked on the feet a little bit, shoots for a takedown, and gets guillotined. Now, Costa, guess what? He won by a guillotine in his last fight against Andre Fili. In a similar situation, he was outstriking Fili on the feet. Fili shoots a dusty takedown, gets guillotined. I can see that happening here. The only question mark I really have is the elevation, and will Costa gas himself out in an attempt to grapple with C-Rod? Because people that grapple with C-Rod usually don't win those exchanges. But I think in this one, Costa looked very upgraded against Fili. He actually has good striking now. He has good kicks. He can keep this at range. Not really sure what C-Rod's path to victory is other than to out-cardio and outwork Costa. And I'm just not buying into that this week. I'm going to take Costa, and I think he will find the submission. I think he's going to go full send in the grappling once round 2 starts. I think round 1 is going to be a feeling out process, and round 2, Melky tries to get the back, gets it, potentially gets an RNC, potentially gets a guillotine. Costa by round 2 sub. Next fight on the card, we have Ateba Gautier taking on José Medina. And in this one, I don't really know why José Medina decided to the UFC. He lost his Contender Series fight. Then they bring him to the UFC, and he loses to Zach Reese by decision. Just gets pieced up over 3 rounds by both guys. And both guys aren't really that good. And he's still in the UFC, and they're still giving him a prospect from the Contender Series. His name is Ateba Gautier. He's only really KO'd people that are not that good. And even in the Contender Series, yes, he KO'd the guy. But, I mean, let's be real. His name is Yura Naito. He was 6-0. You know, Asian prospect on the Contender Series that didn't go through road to the UFC is a little questionable. So even that win, I'm questioning. But then again, José Medina, there's nothing good about him. Maybe his jiu-jitsu. Maybe Ateba Gautier, you know, he's mainly a striker, not really that good on the ground. Maybe José Medina can somehow get it to the ground, but I just don't see that happening. Gautier potentially can gas out if he doesn't find a round one finish. But even then, like, what can José Medina do? Like, pepper him with volume? I'm not really sure. Maybe Gautier shoots a dusty takedown because he's so tired, and José Medina finds a submission that way. I can maybe see that. But other than that, there's just not enough there to take the dog. So Ateba Gautier by round 2 KO. Next fight on the card, we have Edgar Chairez taking on CJ Vergara. And in this one, I'm going with the underdog. I'm going with the underdog. I'm going with the guy that got picked by 10% of Tapology. We're picking CJ Vergara to win by decision and allow me to reintroduce myself. So CJ Vergara's only losses are against ranked guys other than Ode Osborne. So we got Ramazan Temirov, we got Asu Almabayev, and I'm forgetting the other one, Tatsuro Taira. And he didn't look that good in those matchups. Granted, he got armbarred, he got knocked out, he went to a decision by getting wrestled for 3 rounds. The good news is, I don't think Edgar Chairez can replicate any of those things. Edgar Chairez is mainly a submission specialist who doesn't shoot for takedowns. Edgar Chairez's only win in the UFC is against Daniel Lacerda. And guess what? CJ Vergara also finished Daniel Lacerda. CJ Vergara has more UFC wins than Edgar Chairez. The only reason we're gassing up Edgar Chairez like this is because he went to a close decision against Joshua Van and didn't get finished by Tatsuro Taira. So, for those reasons, there's not enough there for me to take Edgar Chairez. Yes, he had good striking against Joshua Van, but are we expecting Chairez to KO CJ Vergara? I mean, CJ Vergara is pretty durable. He did get KO'd by Temirov, but Temirov throws with 10 times more heat than Chairez. I mean, Chairez doesn't shoot for takedowns. Maybe CJ Vergara shoots for a bad takedown and gets caught in something. That's the only thing that I can really see happening that's bad for CJ. But if this stays standing, I think CJ throws with more volume. I think he will be able to outwork Edgar Chairez. You know, Chairez did land a knockdown on Tatsuro Taira, and he, did clip Joshua Van, but that's because they were entertaining those, type of brawls. CJ Vergara doesn't really entertain those brawls. He really tries to keep it on the outside. He will run away from you if he has to. He will run. He will do a lap around the cage. He did it against Daniel Lacerda, then finished him. He ran. And I think against Chairez, there's enough there. Chairez is mid. He's 11-6. And he had a good performance against Joshua Van. That's the only reason. He's a minus 350. It doesn't make any sense. And it's in Mexico. I guess that's another reason. But we're taking CJ Vergara by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Ronaldo Rodríguez taking on Kevin Borjas. And I'm starting to feel like a fish for taking Ronaldo Rodríguez. He's only minus 150, and the line is moving down. So he's minus 130. Yet, 91% of Tabology people have picked him, so I am feeling a little sheepish. Not my most favorite play on the card, even though I haven't parlayed with Ateba Gautier. But I will give my analysis. Kevin Borjas, he's mainly a striker. If this were to hit the ground, I think Ronaldo Rodríguez will submit him. And that's basically it. Ronaldo is pretty wild, so there is a off chance that Borjas can land something big on the feet and potentially win the round. He can land something big on the feet and potentially find a KO. But I think once this gets into the grappling exchanges, once this gets to the ground, I think it's going to be Rodríguez all day. That's his main path to victory here. And I think he will be able to submit Kevin Borjas. Borjas, 27 years old, not the best UFC run. He won by decision on Contender Series. He hasn't had a highlight performance yet. And I don't think he's going to have one here against Ronaldo Rodríguez. Ronaldo did get clipped by Ode Osborne. And I think he got clipped by Denis Bondar. But he's just able to survive that. And then he was able to control Ode Osborne for 4+ minutes in the first round after he got clipped in the first 30 seconds. So if Ode Osborne wasn't able to KO this guy, I sincerely doubt that Kevin Borjas will be able to. So for those reasons, that's his only path to victory, in my opinion. Give me Ronaldo Rodríguez by round 2 submission. Next fight on the card, we have David Martinez taking on Saimon Oliveira. And in this one, there are just way too many question marks to take David Martinez as minus 400. He's a Dana White Contender Series rookie, and he's fighting at UFC Mexico City, okay? He's fighting in front of a crowd for his UFC debut, his home crowd. So, number one, UFC jitters is going to be high, all right? Number two, there's going to definitely be a tremendous adrenaline dump, all right? And number three, David Martinez is a back foot karate fighter. So constantly he's fighting on the back foot. He throws some pop shots, fights on the back foot. That's how he does it. Saimon Oliveira is someone who's going to push forward, press the action. Granted, his durability is a little questionable. You know, if he gets hit with a big shot, I don't doubt that he will go down and lose. You know, I don't doubt that he'll just cover up and pull guard and try to, you know, play a guard game. I don't doubt that. And usually you try to fade those type of fighters, you know, guard pullers. But I think Saimon Oliveira has some decent wrestling. I think he's going to press the action forward. He's going to initiate the takedowns. And David Martinez hasn't really fought anyone that does that to him in his run in MMA so far. So I think there's enough there to take Oliveira. He has UFC experience. Tony Gravely, he attempted like a million takedowns, and Gravely avoided all of them. And then Daniel Marcos is just an elite striker for the division, and he just got pieced up. I don't think David Martinez is either of those things, which makes me think Oliveira has a great chance to win. So for those reasons, I think he's going to go out there, wrestle David, and find a submission by any means necessary. Saimon Oliveira by round 1 sub. Next fight on the card, we have Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Vince Morales. And in this one, I'm not going to fall for the bait that Vince Morales is good just because he went to a close decision with Elijah Smith. I'm not falling for it. Raul Rosas Jr. has proved to be unsubmittable so far. And Vince Morales' main path to victory is to try to catch Rosas in a sub while Rosas enters for the takedown. I don't see it happening. Morales guillotine, Morales Peruvian necktie, Morales rear naked choke. I don't see any of those things happening. I think Rosas is just simply too good on the ground to get submitted by a guy like Vince Morales. He survived C-Rod. He survived Ricky Tercios. They had him in bad spots, and he got out of them. He just has an unsubmittable chin. And I think Morales is going to go out there and get submitted. Rosas Jr.'s pressure is too much. Morales only fought 1 month ago, so he will probably fall off a cliff in terms of gas tank. So for those reasons, I'm pretty confident picking this one, Raul Rosas Jr. by round 2 sub. Next fight on the card, we have Kelvin Gastelum taking on Joe Pyfer. And really, I don't really know what Kelvin Gastelum is doing in his career at this point. So he lost to, let's see here. He loses to Chris Curtis, goes down to welterweight to fight Sean Brady, right? Gets absolutely mauled and submitted by Sean Brady. Then he's like, oh, I'm going to stay at welterweight. He's going to fight Daniel Rodríguez. But like a week before the fight, he's like, I don't really feel like cutting weight. So they make it a middleweight fight. So now he's just fighting at middleweight now. They're not giving him a chance to fight at welterweight anymore. No more career resurgence for Kelvin Gastelum. And they're giving him one of the hardest hitters in the division in Joe Pyfer. A lot of people are picking Joe Pyfer by KO. It looks like 58% of the pickers are picking him to win by KO. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think the first round is going to be, a peppering, striking exchanges. Kelvin Gastelum tries to stay back. Maybe Kelvin lands like a big leg kick or something. And Joe Pyfer rocks Kelvin a little bit. Round 2, I think Joe Pyfer shoots takedowns. I think he just tries to prove that he can outclass Kelvin Gastelum in every facet of MMA. Kelvin Gastelum has shown that he's pretty durable chinny-wise, but on the ground, he has been easily submitted. Sean Brady did it. Jacker Manson did it. Very easy to submit this guy once it gets to the ground if you have good jiu-jitsu. I think Joe Pyfer knows that. Sean Brady is his best friend and teammate, and Sean Brady submitted him, so you don't think they're exchanging tips. So, hot take, I think Joe Pyfer submits Kelvin Gastelum in round 2. Next fight on the card, we have Manuel Torres taking on Drew Dober, and I really tried hard. I really did to get to a Drew Dober pick, but after watching tape, I just can't do it. Drew Dober, the thing about him is he just pushes himself into exchanges. Like, there's no feints, there's no feeling out process. Drew Dober just sprints into the fight. That's just what he does. And I think against a guy like Manuel Torres, that's not going to work out. Manuel Torres, yes, he got starched by Ignacio Bahamondes in his last fight. But if you rewatch that, Manuel Torres was winning for like the first 3 minutes before getting clipped by Bahamondes. I don't think that Drew Dober and Bahamondes are the same guy. Bahamondes has a pretty big reach. He's very long for the division, and I think that's what gave Manuel Torres problems. I don't think that's going to give Manuel Torres any problems in this matchup. I think Manuel Torres can win this by any means necessary, but I'm going to lean towards submission, actually, over KO. Simply because I think Manuel Torres might enter this fight a little more hesitant since he did get KO'd last time. I think he's going to be a little more takedown-oriented. We've seen Drew Dober been controlled for 10-plus minutes by Renato Moicano, and that was only a year ago. So that is a path to victory Manuel Torres can take, and we've already seen Manuel Torres submit one of the better submission specialists in the division in Chris Duncan, which is a new discovery. So all paths to victory are available for Manuel Torres. I understand Drew Dober, experience, but the thing about Drew Dober, we've liked him so far because of his durability, and lately that's not even something that's saving him. He lost by doctor stoppage to Gene Silva. He would have probably been KO'd. And he lost to KO by Matt Frivola. Nearly got submitted by Moicano. So, what do we even like about this guy anymore? I'm not sure. Manuel Torres has one bad performance against Ignacio Bahamondes, who is ranked, and all of a sudden, he's mid. I don't buy it. Manuel Torres before that fight was a savage, finishing every fight in the first round. I think he comes out here a little more smart, a little smarter, a little more takedown oriented, and wins this. Manuel Torres by round 2-7. Next fight on the card is Brandon Moreno taking on Steve Erceg. It is the main event of UFC Mexico City, and I think I'm going to switch. I think I'm going to flip to Steve Erceg. The only reasons to take Moreno are superficial ones. Moreno has fought the best of the division. Well, guess what? Steve Erceg has also fought Pantoja and only lost the fight by 1 round, and it was the last one. So yeah, Brandon Moreno, he's been around longer. He's been in multiple 5-round fights. Yeah, that's not something you can say about Steve Erceg, but that's very superficial. If we're going skill for skill, these two are standing in front of each other. Moreno wins if he shoots takedowns. But can we really trust Moreno to shoot takedowns? I think Steve Erceg can shoot takedowns. I think if this fight's standing, I think Steve Erceg could get the better of the striking exchanges. Brandon Moreno is 0-3 in Mexico. 84% of people are taking Moreno, and I just simply think it's for superficial reasons. Now, if Erceg were to lose to Moreno, we would look back on his career and be like, damn, he fought for the title at Pantoja, fell off, gets KO'd by Cara France, loses to Moreno. What's next? I can see that. But we're trusting Moreno to do things that he doesn't often do. We're trusting Moreno to wrestle. If this remains standing, it's anyone's fight. If Moreno starts to shoot takedowns, then it becomes 70-30 in Moreno's favor. And that's what will justify his price tag. I don't know if I'm willing to buy that. And I'm deciding right now, right here, if I'm going to switch. And I just, I think Erceg might be more hesitant to throw because he just got knocked out as well. You don't really see knockouts happen often at flyweight. We're going to take, oh my God. I mean, Moreno looked very good against Amir Albazi as well. But I think anyone would look good against him. Albazi is not that good. I picked Albazi in that fight too, just because to fade Moreno. But now I'm not going to take Erceg. I took Albazi. What am I doing? Oh my God. This is bad. All right, we're taking Steve Erceg. Send it. Send it. We're taking Steve. We're taking Steve. We're taking Steve. Yeah. We're taking Steve. Outstrike him. This is going to be so bad. Thank you for watching this episode of Finch Chats. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments who your favorite underdog is this week. I tell you mine every week, and I want to know what yours is. Underdog in the comment. Let me know. I'll shout you out in the video if they hit. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. You savage.